Good afternoon and welcome to our NOSH Week webinar series hosted by the Occupational Safety and Health Agency. We're certainly happy to see all of you, our stakeholders and social partners, and I trust that this afternoon is going to be very informative for you and very interesting. The theme of our series this year is Anticipate, Prepare and Respond to Crises. Invest now in resilient OSHA systems. This series was designed to address those sectors with high instances of critical accidents in Trinidad and Tobago. And those sectors would be manufacturing, which we dealt with yesterday, wholesale retail, which we will be looking at today, and human health, which we will address tomorrow. Today's session is broken into two. The first segment will be presentations, and the second segment will comprise a question and answer session where you will be able to chat directly with us and get clarification for your questions. So if you want to ask a question, feel free to do so at any point during the session. To do so, to the right of your screen, you will see a window, and in that window, there's a place to type and submit your questions. As I said, feel free to do so at any point. However, your responses will come only at the end of the presentations when we are in our question and answer segment. So this afternoon we have two very seasoned inspectors who will be presenting to us, and they are Annabelle Sipasad and Lennox Bowen. And after that, we also have some more persons here, including a legal counsel who will assist in the answering of the questions. But at this time, we will go into our presentations. And to start the ball rolling, I will introduce Lennox Bowen, who will take you through this afternoon's content. Lennox?
Thank you very much, Kendall. My name is Lennox Bowen, Inspector with the OSHA Agency. Let's dive directly into it. Question: industrial establishments, how do you develop sustainable systems of work? Prior to this presentation, I made a little note that I wanted to share with you. Sustainable organizations strive to balance the triple bottom line of people, planet, and profit to achieve long-term success and viability. This means that organizations cannot be sustainable without protecting the safety, health, and welfare of their most vital resource. And that resource is the human resource, which are workers. But how do we achieve that? To achieve this locally, we can utilize the general duties of the employer outlined within the OSHA Act. Duties of the employer. Within Section 6, duties of the employer are outlined. So let me just carry you through this section for a second. Every employer is to ensure, so far as reasonably practicable, the safety, health, and welfare at work of all its employees. This is found in Section 6, subsection 1. What do we mean by reasonably practicable? What is available to you at that given time may be resources, expertise, technical advancement. You are able to do and ensure the safety and health of all your workers, all of the individuals that enter your organization, including taking into account the likelihood of hazards and risk occurring. Continuing to general duties, this Section 6, subsection 2, from A to F, I will outline these for you at this time. Section 6, subsection 2A deals with safe place, plant, systems of work. It is a duty of care that you must extend that to workers, customers, contractors, anyone that enter your organization, that you have a safe place and a safe system of work. What about the other? Arrangements for safe handling, storage and transport of articles, equipment, machinery, and substances. Again, we go forward. Adequate and suitable protective clothing, and this is a very important point. PPE at zero cost to the employers. This is something the employer must produce and give. We continue. Necessary information, instruction, training, and supervision. There must be on your compound, in your organization, in your plan, instructions given to the employees, training to the employees, supervision by an expert, a competent person, a senior person, and the information that goes around in signage. The other, subsection 6, subsection 2E, deals with maintenance of safe egress and egress, entering and exiting the plant, aisles shouldn't be blocked, thoroughfares shouldn't be blocked, and we'll show you from the emergency management side why this is so. And again, a safe working environment with adequate welfare facilities. COVID-19 is here, so running water is a must. You must have running water, soap for sanitizing. We're not done yet. Section 6, subsection 7 deals with preparation of a safety policy. We normally and usually ask all organizations to show us your safety policy. What is your stance on safety and health? Now, with employers, normally they will be so busy running the organization, but they are unaware of the OSHA and the contents. Section 6, subsection 7A deals with appointing of a safety practitioner to advise them accordingly. As we continue, and this is important, in the wholesale and retail sector, you will have customers coming into the organization, contractors coming into the organization. These are people that are not in your employment. You still have to conduct and undertake safety and health against any risk to them. Here's where we go. This is a must-have. Section 13A deals with the preparation of a suitable and sufficient risk assessment, and I will get into that further. Section 8, subsection 2B, ensure a written emergency plan. Now, you don't just write a plan, an emergency plan. It must be in alignment to your risk assessment that is suitable and sufficient. Guard against hazard. Now, this diagram identifies exactly how is the hierarchy of control in a specific order. And you notice that the personal protective equipment is at the bottom. Reason being, the first thing you want to do is eliminate your hazard. If that can't be done, you substitute, replace the hazard. If that also cannot be done, you apply engineering controls, which is isolating people from the hazard. This works hand in hand with administrative controls, which is to change the way people work. Last but not least, protect the worker with personal protective equipment. This hierarchy of control specifically is designed for COVID-19. Now, the virus is here. There's nothing we can do to eliminate it, right? But yet we are in the workplace, we are interacting with people, right? So we need to know what can we do as employers? What are the employers? What can they do to protect their employees from attracting COVID-19? There is engineering controls. What are these controls? These include improving ventilation by increasing ventilation rates in the work environment, installing physical barriers such as clear plastic. I saw this as a customer in a supermarket in 2020, and it was amazing to see. In some of the other supermarkets, there is that glass barrier as well. While engineering and administrative controls are considered more effective, PPE may also be needed to prevent certain types of exposure. So here it is now, the wearing of masks is a priority. Wearing of face shields. You don't normally see that before in probably what, 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago, but here it is now, it's new normal. Prevention and mitigation of COVID-19 at the work for small and medium-sized enterprises. These may include in changing the work policy and procedure in order to reduce or minimize exposure to such hazard. Now, as you're well aware, in the workforce today, especially more specific in the public sector, there are shift systems in place, meaning there are 50% that will come, others work at home. So you don't have that interaction and that cluster of people at the workplace. Again, practice all hygiene to minimize infection. Let's dive in now to the risk assessment section 13A. Every employer shall make a suitable and sufficient annual assessment, yearly assessment, okay? The risk to the safety and health of his employees to which are exposed while at work. This is at work. Now, again, in the wholesale and retail sector, you find you have deliveries. So you will tell yourself, that work is not in the building. Yes, they are at work, okay? The risk to safety and health of persons not in his employment. supermarkets, pharmacies, and hardwares were the three entities that were open in 2020 when there was a basic shutdown to minimize that spread, right? So you still, as an employer, have to adhere to these principles. Risk assessment again. This risk assessment is to be reviewed if there are no reason to suspect that it's no longer valid or there has been a significant change. So what do I mean by that? For example, following an accident, incident, or near miss, a significant new information becomes available or when there is being significant changes to the working procedure. That tends to happen. What else tends to happen? Significant changes to the working procedure may include such things as new machines, substances, and processes. You may get a new machine to increase production, increase speed, but that new machine may bring additional hazard, maybe noise, heat, maybe sharp blades that you wasn't interacting with before. They may be using substances now that are toxic, that are abrasive, and the processes may cause some measure of harm. The risk assessment must be reviewed. It is not necessary to review and amend the assessment for each trivial change. Now, if there's a trivial change, you can communicate that still. You have a toolbox meeting. Indicate to your employees, listen, we are entertaining a task today that may have some harm, but it's not major, but still be aware these are the safe systems that you must apply. That risk assessment, again, must be updated and modified if there are significant changes. Now, let's take a look at this diagram for a second. As you can see, it's color-coded. There's red, there is amber, and there is green. That color red is significant. You know, you heard that terminology at St. Vincent, the red zone. That stipulates a high degree of risk. And that high degree of risk, the severity is high. So the consequence of that severity is high. So if you're doing a risk assessment and you identify the people, the property, the production environment where that severity is high, your control measures and residual control measures must be adhered to. Similarly, with low, as you can see, it's a minor injury that can happen to people, you know, so you make sure and assess and rate your risk and severity. Likelihood, how is it likely to occur? Similarly here, it's also color-coded, red, amber, and green. Red signifies a high risk that it can occur, green meaning low. As you can see, red, if it's red, a high damage or adverse environmental impact is almost certain, as compared to low, that damage is unlikely to occur, but still can. Here you have a 3x3 matrix. As you can see, the severity is on your left, likelihood on the top. If your severity is low and your likelihood is low, then as you can see, it's green, right? However, though, if your likelihood is high, meaning it's a 3, and your severity is 3, then it's color-coded red. So you're seeing is that green, amber, red is significant and it means something. Here we have a COVID-19 risk assessment. This COVID-19 risk assessment, as you can see, is assessing the exposure of people at higher risk of harm, people who need to be self-isolated, transmission into person through contact. And as you can see, it is rated. Now, bear in mind, if the risk control measures apply do not reduce that risk as far as reasonably practicable, you still could apply further actions for improvement. Again, we are doing all that we can to minimize spread. Okay, so I'm not done yet. The presentation is not done yet. I would like to turn you over now to Ms. Annabelle Sipasad, Inspector 2, who will now give you a presentation on improved business efficiency. Ms. Sipasad.
Thank you, Lennox. Good afternoon, everyone. My task here today is to speak a little bit on how to improve business efficiency. Now, many business owners still feel that investing in workplace safety will have a negative impact on the productivity and finances. But the truth is, a safe workplace is often a more productive and profitable one. The work environment can have either a negative or a positive effect on the quality and the quantity of work that employees produce. So a safe place of work, by providing a safe place of work, you can minimize the downtime. Whether you're in an office or an industrial facility, minimizing downtime is the key to maintaining productivity. In either settings, employees are necessary to maintain productivity. This means that workplace accidents and injuries will lead to reduced productivity in any workplace. Businesses that have minimal safety measures in place to try and speed up production are often unsafe, which leads to safety-related incidents and accidents, and this increases the downtime. This will have a negative impact on your profitability in the long run. So, for example, inadequate systems to treat with COVID-19 can impact the operations of the facility and affect your downtime due to exposure or possible exposure. The risk assessment that Mr. Bowen was speaking about will take into account systems that you need to implement to ensure business continuity. To increase your profits, a safe place of work with increased profits, less downtime, and improved productivity will help to increase overall profits. The lower your business injury rate, the higher your profit margin. Statistics show that companies that implement effective safety and health programs in their work environments can expect a reduction in their company's illness and injury rate. On the other hand, businesses who fail to enforce proper safe measures have several accidents throughout the year, which will result in costly insurance, lost productivity, and potential legal fees. Safe workplaces would also improve employee morale. Workplace injuries and safe working environments are bad for employee morale. By creating safe working conditions, employees can focus on their key tasks and responsibilities without worrying about dangers in their workplace. If workers are unwell, either mentally or physically, they will be less productive. Therefore, in order to remain profitable, employers must embrace an all-encompassing approach to health and safety at work. When employees are comfortable and safe at work, it increases a secure environment that increases morale. Healthy, happy employees are more reliable and productive, which helps to improve the overall output and profitability of your business. Don't forget that workplace health and safety can also affect your customers. Just think, for example, customers don't want to walk in a cluttered store with potential tripping hazards. In addition, if a customer is injured while on your compound, you can be held liable, as well as OSHA now will have to investigate that accident and have possible litigation and legal fees attached to that. Also, if your employees are injured at work as a result of unsafe conditions, you may no longer be able to fulfill the demands of your customers. As a result, you may also lose customers, which will have a negative impact on your business and reputation. So your corporate image will be decreased. You should also consider that the fact that safe employees tend to be happier and have a more positive team morale. This increases positive customer interaction, which leads to customer retention and loyalty. Protecting employees' health and safety is a moral and legal responsibility for all businesses. But good practice can also help attract best staff, increase productivity, improve profitability, and enhance workforce well-being. The importance of workplace safety cannot be overstated. Therefore, the sooner you begin to creating a safer working environment, the better. An unsafe working condition or unsafe working environment can lead to accidents. It should be noted that if someone gets injured, the actual cost of the payout in the injury claim is only the tip of the iceberg. The costs that aren't seen are the major costs, or the unseen or unrecoverable costs, such as reduced productivity. You have accident investigations where you have to allot time internally for an accident investigation to be done, as well as you have to inform OSHA if any accidents occur, and we will conduct our accident investigation, which may lead to possible litigation. So your legal fees will increase as well. As well as the employees can also have or take a civil action against the company because of the accident. You also have lost time by a supervisor, cost of training replacement worker. So the cost of training replacements to take the place of the worker that was injured. You have in the event that there was an equipment damage, you have to have equipment repairs. So all of these unrecoverable costs. This is a pay out of pocket for the businesses. So preventing accident is the best management strategy in reducing accident costs. So in the OSHA agency, we received complaints. So within the period of October 2018 and then September 20, for the wholesale and retail trade sector, most of the complaints were received within the Tunapuna region, followed by Port of Spain, and then the Salvo Lavental region. The nature of some of these complaints were unreported accidents, unsafe procedures or process, and poor ventilation. All of these would signify that there was some sort of unsafe condition, and all of the underlying costs would, as well as the lack of employee morale, would apply to these. We also receive accidents. Now, for the same period, 85.98% were non-critical in nature. However, we had 2.9% were critical in nature and 0.29% were fatal. So in terms of the non-critical, the 85.98%, those injuries were wounds and superficial injuries. However, remember that in the iceberg theory, even though they were superficial wounds and injuries, you didn't capture the unseen or unrecoverable costs. So all of that would apply, even though they were non-critical in nature. Those underlying or unseen costs still apply. So you lose productivity for any accidents that happen in the workplace. So to improve business efficiency amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, let's just talk a little bit about that. Conduct and implement the COVID-19 risk assessment. So Mr. Bowen would have indicated that you need to conduct a suitable and sufficient risk assessment. So the risk assessment would take into account the specific operations of the company and the necessary initiatives to meet with the legal requirements as well as customer demands. So some of the initiatives that some companies has instituted is in-store cleaning protocols, social distancing, your order fulfillment through curbside pickup, provision of hand sanitizers at appropriate locations within the establishment, and efforts to protect vulnerable customers. You'd have either special days or special hours for the more vulnerable customers to come before they actually open up for business. You have signages. So all of these will be some of the initiatives as well as some of the mitigating measures to reduce employee exposure to COVID-19. There would be others as well. So the company has to be a little more innovative in how they implement or how they treat with the risk of COVID-19 and to ensure that their business continuity is continued. Now, the risk assessment is the driver for the emergency response plan. Employers must develop a comprehensive emergency plan to deal with the health crisis and the pandemic. Now, the emergency plan will be based on your findings of your risk assessment, which will take in consideration, again, the operations and the type of industry. So your emergency plan would have the necessary steps to take when you have a positive case, you have a suspected case. What are the procedures to do? What is your response is going to be like? So all of these things are supposed to be communicated as well to the employees. You reassess your business operations to determine the core and support operations, remote or on-site. So in the event that you have to work remotely, work at home, some sort of operations or procedures are supposed to be taken into consideration for these type of operations. Is either through a shift system, etc. You revise your policies and procedures to maintain efficiency. So look at your cooperations and rein against the COVID-19. You restructure your work arrangements, you consider developing a business continuity plan. So all of these revised policies and procedures would also be driven by the requirements from the Ministry of Health and whatever new policies that are existing from the ever evolving pandemic and the COVID-19. So just occupational health practices to review. This comes straight from the Ministry of Health, and the requirements to date: you limit your mask gatherings to less than 5 persons. You maintain social distancing of 2 meters. You reduce waiting time in areas. You have specific procedures to access control methods. So places that you would go to now, everyone has to do some sort of temperature checks. You have your COVID-19 forms. You're logging in personal information for contact tracing. You have aerosol generating procedures, and then your contactless points. So some of the wholesale and retail companies, instead of handling money, they have a card-only system. So instead of exposing their employees to handling the money, you have the customers paying with card. So these are just some of the initiatives that are taken. You insist that symptomatic person, inclusive of staff, maintenance, visitors, stay away and self-isolate. This comes out straight from the Ministry of Health. It is important to know that you should check the Ministry of Health's website for any sort of new information that may come about. So you can get this information on the Ministry of Health's website. So you just make sure that these are the legal requirements and how to treat with COVID-19 at your facility, and what are some of the symptoms that you should look out for in your employees and how to deal and treat with that. So some of the take-home messages is people carry the virus and people can stop the virus. You adhere to the Ministry of Health guidelines. You do the right thing, lead by example, and keep the economy going. You develop and comply with workplace policies and procedures. COVID-19 has taught us to think creatively, be simple, and be cost-effective. And remember that all risk is not the same, and hence controls cannot be one size fits all. And you conduct a suitable and sufficient risk assessment. This is the key to ensuring business continuity. So thank you so very much. I'll pass you back on to Mr. Kendall Reed. Thank you.
Thank you, Annabelle, for that, and Lennox for that very for those very interesting presentations. And there was a lot of information about the wholesale retail sector and some of the data we see coming out of it. So I want to thank all of our attendees who took the time to be part of this presentation. I want to let you all know as well that we are going to be continuing with a series of presentations. So right now, for this week, we are focusing on sectors like manufacturing and wholesale retail and so on. But as we go along in our series, we will be getting even more specific to types of industrial establishments and the kinds of things that we are seeing. Okay, so we are having a series and it is really targeted at helping persons understand what are their requirements under the law and to let them see, to let you see what we see, right? And we believe if you see more, if you understand more, it will reduce the instances of accidents and incidents in the workplace.